If you're putting lots of time and effort into piano, but you're not quite getting the results or the progress that you want, you might be currently doing a couple of things wrongly. I'm Jazer, I've taught piano for more than 10 years, and here are 7 things I continually see beginners make that hinders their progress. Make sure to watch to the end because this video might be the thing that really changes up your entire piano career. By the end of this video, you will know what these 7 pitfalls are and also how to solve them. The first pitfall is something I like to call gambling. Gambling is this phenomenon I see lots of amateur pianists do, which is without even really knowing what hands separately should sound and feel like, they immediately jump into hands together playing and at concert speed as well. When they practice, it sounds something like this. There just isn't this sense of concern and detail-orientedness to their practice. The much better way to practice is first to do hands separately, to break it down into a smaller and more easy to digest chunk. So I would first do right hand, for example. Really slowly, really articulately, and really sure of what the next note is. Never, ever, ever gambling. After maybe practicing my right hand, 5, 7, or 10 times when I'm really, really sure what's happening in the right hand, maybe I go to the left hand and go. Again, really secure, really slow, really mindfully knowing what I'm playing, and never ever for a single moment gamble with what notes there are. So if I see F sharp on the page, I'm playing F sharp on the piano. I think lots of amateur pianists gamble because they have never been taught to practice correctly. Maybe they feel like if they just simply try enough times, they would get the hang of it and they would learn their parts. But the reality is, gambling when you're practicing piano never ever works. In piano, you improve what you practice. So whatever you're striking and playing on the piano, you're actually committing a bit of that to your muscle memory each time you do it. So think about it. Each time you play something wrong, you're actually making the wrong part better and more secure. This is really bad for your progress. If you keep kind of stuffing it up and practicing the stuffed up parts, your hands will never ever learn the correct notes. Like I was saying before, what I recommend you do is to take down the speed, right? Maybe even break the hands up apart, do hands separately first, but practice in such an articulate way that you're not making one single wrong note in your practice. Make it bite-sized and easy to digest enough that your brain knows exactly what's happening and you can play, let's say 7 out of 7 times 100% correctly. So to conclude, pitfall number 1 is gambling. My advice to you, whatever pieces you're working on, break it down into more manageable parts and work on them and prioritize success. Prioritize success. That means when you play something for 5 or 7 or 10 times, you want to make sure those 5, 7 or 10 times are correct from the first time. From the first time. Not only at the end, but from the very first time. Because remember, you improve whatever you practice. Pitfall number 2 is playing too fast too soon. This pitfall is connected to the first pitfall. Now I know whenever you pick a song or a piece you want to play, it's probably because you got inspired by listening to the song or a piece on Spotify or YouTube Music. And when we get that inspiration from a piece, we want to get there immediately. We want to play at the concert or the recording speed straight away. Unfortunately, rushing can lead to really sloppy technique. It can also lead to lots of gambling, which we have learned early in this video that is so detrimental to your progress. Let's say I'm working on that piece, the much better thing to do is to play it really, really slow and know exactly what I'm playing first. Playing really slowly helps me to mindfully know exactly when each hand is supposed to strike and for each notes. If there's one thing I've learned from playing piano for 20 years and teaching students for 10 years is that you cannot get to the concert speed or recording speed by playing fast. It's a very counterintuitive thing. The only real way to get to a fast speed is actually to do it really, really slow first. And the reason is because when you do it slowly, your brain is able to process it better. And when your brain's able to process what's happening, it keeps those information. And over time, it's a really mysterious thing. After practicing for a few nights slowly, you'll just suddenly be able to do it quickly, and it's unexplainable. It's like your hands just have brains of their own. So remember, playing too fast too soon is a pitfall. I recommend you to do much slower practice for at least a week before you get into playing the recording or the concert speed. Remember, playing until you get it right is never going to work. I want you to prioritize success from the first strike of note. Pitfall number 3 is overusing the pedal. Now I get it, the pedal is a wonderful tool. It makes everything sound grander, it makes everything sound longer, more legato. It just creates this nice surround sound ambiance that tends to make a lot of pieces sound better. However, when you're practicing the piano, not performing, when you're practicing the piano, I suggest you to actually limit the pedal you use. And that's because by taking away the pedal, you'll be exposing your weaker areas more. Your weaker areas, parts that need improvement, will just become more apparent to you when you take that pedal away. So in this piece that I was practicing before, this is Fantasy Impromptu by Chopin. Because the pedal sustains so many notes, some of the inaccuracies or some of the wrong notes can actually be covered up pretty well. So my teacher recommended me, when I was learning this in the past, was to actually take away the pedal, do it slowly, and try to just prioritize every single note and do it in a very, very delicate way. Every single note on the right and also the left hand. So try this one. Next time you practice piano, take away the pedal. It won't sound as nice, but it will allow you to be more mindful of what's happening in your hands and fingers when you just take away the legs job. Your brain can just focus so much more on what's happening on your hands, and you'll be able to play better and more accurate notes. If this video is helpful to you, make sure you subscribe to our channel. We have loads of free piano tips and tutorials here on Learn Piano with Jazer. Pitfall number 4 is ignoring scales and arpeggios. Now I know scales and arpeggios seem boring, but they're arguably the building blocks of your piano skills. I won't go into deep detail in this video, but I will give you 2 good reasons about why you should practice scales and arpeggios. Number 1 is that it teaches you technique. So the act of learning the scales will just help you to practice things like finger independence, hand independence. Reason number 2 is that learning scales and arpeggios teaches you a lot about music theory, in particular, key signatures. So I demonstrated just then for you the E major scale and the E major arpeggios. Now when I learned the E major scale or arpeggios, I studied that in the world of E major, there are 4 sharps. Okay, so there are F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, and D sharp. So if I go from E to E, I need to sharp those to make it sound like a major scale, rather than something like, which is not a major scale. Studying scales and arpeggios allowed me to learn that in E major there are these sharps, and when I later play other E major pieces, I realized I could just sight read and learn it much better, because in the back of my head I kind of knew how E major worked, which was that it had 4 sharps. So scales and arpeggios, I know they're a little bit dry, but I think they do serve you pretty well. I recommend doing scales and arpeggios as warm-ups. I think they're very effective and they teach you a lot about the piano world and piano technique and piano music theory. Pitfall number 5 is neglecting sight reading. So sight reading is all about how fast you can look at a piece of music, how fast you can analyze it, and how fast you can digest it, and maybe just even play on the spot then. A good sight reader, therefore, is able to learn pieces really, really quickly. So as my sight reading and analysis skills get better, Pieces that once perhaps took me, let's say 3 to 4 weeks to learn, I can now learn in about 3 or 4 days. Just to give you a really quick tip for sight reading in this video is whenever you're sight reading, I want your eyes to never ever look at the keyboard. Your eyes should always be looking at the sheet music. So if I'm playing Prelude in C major by Bach, for example, so I changed patterns 3 times, okay? So we have this first pattern, and we have the second one. What I see a lot of amateur sight readers do is, well, they're scanning that, okay, there is a bit of a change in notes, and they sort of look down like this. Now, most of the time, especially if the note range isn't too wide, what I want you to do instead is just, instead of using your eyes, use your sense of touch. Use your fingers to feel where those notes are. So if you look at my face now, I can look at the sheet music and basically feel where the notes are, feel it just with my hands and not need to look down. This is a really important skill. If you're able to use your sense of touch more effectively to feel where notes are rather than needing to look down, you're going to read much more fluently. Seriously, you need to try this. If you want a more in-depth video on sight reading, you can click here. But otherwise, we are moving to Pitfall 6, which is not practicing enough. Now, I know this sounds pretty common sense, but I needed to make this a point as well because I feel like in our age of social media and the internet and the algorithms, it's pretty easy, I think, to be distracted by our phones these days and not give piano the time that I think it deserves from us. If you're an adult beginner or learner, 15 minutes a day, I would say, is a minimum if you want to see some progress. 30 minutes to 60 minutes is even better if you want to see some significant progress. Piano is a motor-based skill just like many other sports like tennis or basketball. And if you want to master anything that requires motor control, you're gonna need to practice. Rather than practicing hours in big chunks, I recommend you to practice less, but actually do it every single day. Practicing a little bit every day helps you to keep in touch with the skill. And also, something you'll find in piano is sleep is a very important part. Every time you practice and you go to sleep, whatever you practice gets transferred into your long-term memory. So it's so important that you do it every day rather than just one day, but a lot of hours. So remember to not watch too much of our YouTube videos, but actually go and practice. Pitfall number 7 is practicing too long without breaks. Now, practicing really long is not necessarily a bad thing. There are times where I've picked a piece that I've really loved and I just sit on the piano and 2, 3, 4 hours just goes by and I don't even look at the clock. I'm in the zone, I'm practicing, and that's good. But the point I want to draw to in this pitfall number 7 is that you should never practice for long hours if you find that the long hours make you less and less mindful when you're practicing. So if you're practicing for, let's say, 1 hour, and you're only able to really focus for the first 25 or 30 minutes, and the rest of that later half hour is just kind of like messing around, not doing very much, not being very productive, I recommend you just take a break. Your piano progress is directly correlated to how much you put in piano practice. I know that sounds really common sense, but you do get out what you put in. So if you've given your piano practice 45 minutes of concentrated attention, you're going to get out some good results. What I don't want you to do is to practice piano for the sake of kind of like passing time. For example, if you intuitively in your heart know, okay, I need to practice 30 minutes a day, and then you sort of put on the timer and you just kind of mess around without a real agenda or goal, I think that's just not the greatest use of time. I rather you do it in small blocks, but really concentrated. So there we have it. Pitfall 1, gambling. Pitfall 2, playing too fast too soon. Pitfall 3, overusing the pedal. Pitfall 4, ignoring scales and arpeggios. Pitfall 5, neglecting sight reading. Pitfall 6, not practicing enough. And Pitfall 7, practicing too long without breaks. We've come to the end of this video, but I'll see you in the next tutorial over here.